Hello and welcome to Trust Me, I'm a Philosopher, where we explore trust, what it is, why it matters, and how to build it. In today's video, we're going to be having a look at Karen Jones's theory of trustworthiness. Now, trustworthiness is a bit of a funny topic. If you go and look at the literature that explores trust, you'll see much more of a focus on the conditions needed for people to trust you. That is, people seem more interested in how we can get others to trust them. And that feels a bit hacky. Put it this way. If we want people to trust us, isn't it a really good way to go about that, to be deserving of that trust? Or to put the point in slightly different terms, to be worthy of that trust, to be trustworthy? You might think so. So having suggested that trustworthiness might actually be really quite important, what is it? Well, as with any good bit of philosophy, we can't answer a direct question like that. We first need to clear up a few things. Let's start to think our way through a particular scenario. So let's ask, is my wife trustworthy? Well, that's not really a helpful question because in some ways, yes, and in other ways, maybe not. For instance, at work, my wife is a consummate professional. She is absolutely trustworthy when it comes to delivering important projects to a high standard and doing so in a timely fashion. And when it comes to feeding the dog, she's totally trustworthy. She'll make sure that Sydney gets his dog food and most of our food in time and in good quantity. But there are some other areas of life where, well, she may not be quite as deserving of trust. So for instance, I would not say that she is a trustworthy individual when it comes to saving biscuits. She is simply not deserving of my trust in that situation. So there is an important sense then in which there are particular actions and circumstances with respect to which someone can be trustworthy. But things are in fact even more fun, because my wife might not be trustworthy when it comes to saving me the last of the biscuits, but she might be trustworthy when it comes to saving our son, or our dog, the last of the biscuits. Similarly, I'm trustworthy with my friend's wine. I absolutely would not take a friend's wine. But it's not impossible that I'd swipe my wife's. Frankly, it's just not clear to me that I'm trustworthy with respect to my wife when it comes to her wine. I am trustworthy with respect to my friend's wine. So it isn't just the fact that there are particular actions and circumstances where people are trustworthy, and some others are not. It's also the case that there are some people for whom we are trustworthy, and others not. So this is complicated. Whatever we're going to say about what it is to be trustworthy had better reflect all of that nuance and all of that difference. Enter Karen Jones and her goodwill account of trustworthiness. Here it is. B is trustworthy with respect to A in domain of interaction D if and only if she is competent with respect to that domain, and she would take the fact that A is counting on her, were A to do so in this domain, to be a compelling reason for acted as counted on. This is really precise, which is what you would expect from a good philosophical theory. But because it's quite so precise, it actually isn't the easiest thing to make sense of. So let's unpack it slowly and work through an example. So B is trustworthy with respect to A. Okay, so my wife might be trustworthy with respect to me. Okay, so that's just giving us the idea that we wanted, that some specific people are trustworthy with respect to other specific individuals. B is trustworthy with respect to A in domain of interaction D. Okay, so my wife is trustworthy with respect to me when it comes to ensuring that we fed the dog. A domain of interaction is just a slightly fancy way of talking about some particular set of circumstances in which we can interact and where trust is relevant. In this case, ensuring that we've done what we need to look after the dog's food needs. So carrying on, B is trustworthy with respect to A in domain of interaction D if and only if she is competent with respect to that domain. Competence. Now that's important. Someone who can't do something isn't trustworthy at doing that thing. And if I can't run a 4-minute mile, I can't be deserving of your trust to run a 4-minute mile. If my wife isn't a competent dog feeder, if she threw the food in the bin every time she tried, she wouldn't be trustworthy when it came to feeding the dog. So, competence is important. And now we can finish things up. Finally, we need to take into account acting for the right reason. So, B is trustworthy with respect to A in domain of interaction D if and only if she is competent with respect to that domain, and she would take the fact that A is counting on her, were A to do so in this domain, to be a compelling reason for acted as counted on. So let's think about a slightly different case. Imagine a case where a competent mechanic is fixing your car. So we've got that competence bit of trust. There's a domain, car fixing. But now imagine that the only reason they are fixing your car really well is because their supervisor is watching their every move. The mechanic has been underperforming at work of late and is now under real scrutiny. But that's the only reason for them performing well. Now, in that situation, I don't think we should say that the mechanic is deserving of your trust. The mechanic would gladly do a shoddy job. They're only doing a good job because they feel they're under surveillance. In that being the case, it looks like acting for the right reason, that last clause that we added there, the idea that we sometimes take the fact that others are counting on us to be a compelling reason for acted as counted on. That feels like it might be an important part of being deserving of trust, to being trustworthy. And so that completes the little run through there of Jones's theory. So what have we learned? Well, trustworthiness isn't some global trait that you either have or don't. It's specific. It depends on who you're dealing with, what you're doing, and why you're doing it. According to Karen Jones, to be trustworthy, to be deserving of trust, is to be competent in a particular domain and to treat another's reliance on you as a compelling reason for action. It's not just about being able to do the thing, though. It's about caring that someone is counting on you to do that particular thing. If you want to be trusted, don't focus on hacks and tricks. Focus on being the kind of person who is worthy of trust, being deserving of it. I hope I've been the kind of person whose video you like and who is deserving of your subscribing to their channel. Until next time, stay suitably trustworthy.